Hi, welcome. Tonight we've got Gavin Oswald, the big lefty, 6'6", 285 left-hand pitcher, 2021 grad from Lafayette High School in St. Louis, Missouri. Headed off to play his college baseball at Mineral Area Junior College. Gavin, appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my first interview, so I think this is a really cool step in my baseball career.
Yeah, excellent. I'll start you off with a tough interview question. Tell me a little bit about your family, where you grew up, and who's in the house with you.
So when I was born, I don't recall it much, but I was born in North County. It's been where my family was sprouted. That was just me. My little brother came along. He's a 2025. I'm doing my math correct. 2024. He'll be a sophomore. He's 15. And I got my little sister who's 14. He'll be a freshman. We all play baseball, softball. That's who we are. Every day is okay. I work at a baseball facility, go to baseball practice, come home, watch a Cardinals game. That's just how days are around the Oswald house. We got mom and dad, eat, sleep, and breathe baseball. I think we leave the worst carbon footprint in the nation with how much gas we spend. Just driving to tournaments. I know my parents just got back from Indianapolis and they're headed off to Omaha tomorrow morning. I drive 45 minutes every day to go play. It's just, I love it. I will never wish to get out of a car after spending the day in a car for 8 hours. Then I get to go play the best competition in the nation. We go down to Atlanta. And that's just, people question it a lot. People are like, why do you do it? Don't you want to be 40 years old and say, I had a childhood? I went to the lake. The Lake of the Ozarks is a big thing around here. When I went to the lake, I did this on 4th of July. No, I want to say I've played in Las Vegas. That's a cool thing that most kids don't get to say. I think that's one of the coolest things about me is that I'm different. And people ask me stories when we're all at parties. I have I have the stories that are fun. Not I went to the lake with my family. Everyone does that. That's just not who the Oswalds are. And one other cool thing we have around here is people call some BS on it, but I have goats, chickens, ducks, dogs, cats, sheep, and I don't know on 3.5 acres. Live in an actual subdivision, and so how we make it work. So we are the weird family around here. It's cool.
Listen, dude, I'm from West Virginia, man. So, man, chickens and stuff in the yard, man. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
But I'm a little scared of birds though, which is you said my how big I am. Yes, everyone, I am scared of birds. So I get chased around the yard a lot with chickens.
So listen, man, the recruiting process it's a tough road. A lot of highs and lows. When you look back, what were some low times in the process?
I would say the lowest time was February of 2020. It was right before COVID hit, and it actually was one of my highs for about 12 hours. I went on a kind of it almost was like a tour of the Northeast. I went up to Xavier University in Western Kentucky University and got toured at Xavier and did a camp in Western Kentucky. At that point, I've always been a late bloomer, so it was weird being an older guy at a camp. I was a junior at the time, and there's a bunch of freshmen and back on Western Kentucky invited me back to campus to watch a football game. And as an inexperienced kid, I was like, oh, a football game, that's cool. I'll get back, talk to people, they're like, no, football games mean more than that. It's not just you're gonna go watch a Hilltopper football game. That could be the first step, that'd be something cool for you. And they don't play football in the spring, obviously. So I was looking forward to the fall, and then COVID happened, which brought me down a lot because all the money, all the 4 or 5 big D1s I was talking to, all responded, which was nice, but it was, hey, not this year. Scholarships are gone. I was at such a high after hearing all that, and not even 12 hours later, we were let out of school. We're in quarantine. I was like, wow, is it even possible anymore? That was what I thought to myself was, this is going to be really hard. So I sat in the house because I was questioning a lot. And that was probably the lowest part of recruiting for me.
Yeah, I tell you what, the 2021 grads have had it probably the most difficult of anybody with the extra years that they're giving to college guys, and then the lack of the the ability for coaches to come see guys play in person. It's really put the squeeze on you guys. Tell me on the baseball side, what's some of your measurables? What got coaches to come watch you play baseball?
That is a question I hear a lot, and it's easily answered. I wear a size 20 shoe. So when people hear that, it's like this dude is going to be huge. All I have to say in the first probably 15 words in an email or a Twitter message to a coach is, "Hi, coach. My name is Gavin Oswald. I wear a size 20 shoe. I'm left-handed, and I top at 88." Very quickly, there's a response. They're hooked. It's like they
Yeah,
teach you in school. You got to
that'll
hook them
get it for
early. There
sure.
you go. Yeah.
When you look back at the recruiting process, what were, if you had to list maybe three things that you did that were really important to your recruiting process that helped you land a scholarship? What would be those three things?
So number one is, I know as a kid it sucks, and your parents are going to tell you to do it, and you, mom, dad, I don't want to do this. I feel bad. You have to be persistent. You have to be on them constantly because they're going to remember your name. And when I went down to a camp, I emailed the coach 4, 5, 6 times, and it's when I walked in, Gavin, moment I realized my parents weren't making this stuff up. This is real. This is how you actually do it. And you just constantly post on Twitter. You constantly email coaches, text them, even call their universities with like their baseball headline. Do that stuff whenever you have a chance. Whenever you have free time, always something productive. Get yourself to the next level any way you could. Number two is, don't always drive home baseball. Show interest in the other coaches. Show interest in stuff outside of life, because a coach doesn't want a robot. They want to see that you're a family man. They want to see that you like to go fishing, hunting, do stuff with school, the community, stuff like that. It's not always driving home baseball, because it gets repetitive. They see that all the time. So when you text a coach, "Hey, Merry Christmas. Hope you and your family are well. Enjoy the holiday season." Something as simple as that. Doesn't always have to be something about baseball. Leave that as a tail end and then put your phone number at the bottom. You can just email a coach. "Hope your family's well." That goes a long ways. It shows you being considerate and thinking outside the box and making an extra effort to form not only an athletic connection, but a personal connection with them. Number three is pushing academics. Half the stuff I post about baseball, half of the stuff I post is about academics. Probably more than half about baseball, but a lot of it's about academics, because they want to show that your work ethic isn't, you're a meathead in the gym. They want to see you go home, you put your head down, and you can work at something that may not be the most fun. Because when you're an athlete, they say lifting is hard, but it's fun. You have the end goal. You're more than likely lifting a decent amount. People notice. People know who you are. But doing math homework, doing trigonometry homework in your room sucks. But you have to do it, and you have to let people know that you can do it, and you're an intelligent person, because intelligence in the classroom can lead to intelligence on the baseball field, which can do you wonders.
Yes, you mentioned the academic side. With baseball being an equivalency sport, a lot of times coaches are looking to package, athletic aid with some academic aid. So what was important for you, and what were some of your academic numbers?
So importance for me was the ACT. I got a 25 on my ACT, which isn't not a 36, but it shows that I can think. I'm somewhat intelligent, and taking a lot of those college classes while maintaining, I think I had a 3.7 GPA.
Well done.
I could be points, a couple decimals there, but I was north of that 3.5 range. I was in National Honor Society. I would say keeping that GPA above a 3.5 while staying in those classes because I'll go in ahead of most of the guys while I'll still maintain that GPA. Because when you tell a coach I'm in these classes, because when you really start talking, they think about what classes you're in, what academic bundle they have to give you. You can list those classes and like, wow, this kid is in some challenging classes, and that's a legit grade point average. So I would say the biggest thing for me was keeping that GPA up, but the ACT is nice too. But then again, those coaches look at that GPA; it's a 4-year progress, while that ACT is one test. So sometimes that's not as important as your GPA.
When you started talking with the various coaches, when did academics come up? Was that on the front side, in the middle somewhere?
I threw academics and athletics in on the first email I sent because I knew that it was very important for a school. Because, like you said, with baseball, they try to package those scholarships together. They don't want to do their digging. They want it to be there for them. They want it to be quick and easy. So it wasn't a 10-page email. It was, "Hi, this is who I am. This is what I do," and then I would bullet point 5 or 6 things. Lefty, 2021, size 20 shoe. Kind of used that one to my advantage. Top 87, and then right under that, here's my GPA, ACT. And that was in probably around quarantine, a little after that. Just so right then and there, they know what kind of athlete and student they have right off the bat.
Sure. So when you look back, what was your big break? Was there a tournament or a camp you went to that where you kind of jumped on the scene? Was there something you look back and said, man, that was my big break?
So this kind of happened. It's funny because my big break happened after some of my recruiting stuff. So my recruiting, I got my first offer, and I believe it was March of 2020, right over quarantine. A lot of phone call offers, but they were kind of smaller JUCOs around here. You got a couple D3s, D2s around here, but it really lit up when I posted in July that I'd be playing for the Dallas Patriots in the World of Bat tournament in October. People know that, scouts know that, they know that's a tournament with all the dudes in it. And when I went down there, and I to get acclimated with that level of baseball, because let's be honest, St. Louis is in Texas. You have good ball players up here, but down there, everyone is good. And when I went down there, I went to Dallas in early September, and then a week after, I went to Houston. And when I succeeded in those tournaments, it got some eyes, it got some looks. And then when I went down to World with Bat, I think I threw 4 innings with about 5 strikeouts and no runs earned against the team that placed third, the Louisiana Knights. That was my big. After that, I saw my phone. I got back in the dugout after the game. We lost, but I had to take minutes to scroll. Wow, this is a lot of text, a lot of messages. After I posted the stat line, I would say that was my big break. That was a lot of schools letting me know who they were, let me know they were interested. Because while I had some interest, that was what really skyrocketed me, was that tournament.
So during that tournament, was there a velo jump, or was it the fact that you were showing a good outing against quality competition?
It was showing good outings against quality competition and the upside. I've heard that all my life. Being the kid that grew late was the word I've heard the most often is projectable. He has a future ahead of him. He looks like he will be good. And when I showed that I can be good, and when you walk into that knowing who you're throwing against, you just know I have to be better. And you are better. If you really buckle down, you are better. And that's what knowing that I can have that grit to get through that and throw against those teams, I think that's what attracted coaches.
So when either at home or at a camp, did you get some Rapsodo numbers, some using any of the pitching tools that allowed coaches to see kind of spin rates and breaks and that kind of stuff?
I will say I've gotten those numbers, but I don't really use them. I'm not a huge fan of the new wave of rap soda and all that. I love Jaeger bands, lifting, and long toss. That's what I do
Let's
every
go.
day. Every day, people say, "Are you crazy?" Coaches, they like to see those numbers. Well, listen, you throw 92, that's cool. but can you throw strikes? Can you get outs? Because I will tell you, those numbers in a game are much more important than your spin rate in a bullpen, in my opinion.
So walk me through the velo progression. Like, do you remember like the first time you got you got clocked, how old you were? Because there's a lot of guys out there, younger guys that go, "Hey, I'm this, I'm 13 and I throw this old. I'm 14, I throw this old." What was your kind of velocity progression? Do you remember any of those markers?
Yep, I remember it all so vividly, like it was yesterday. So freshman year in the winter, I topped at 76, but I was sitting around 73, 74, which I was like, okay, I'm a freshman, I'm not mature. It's okay, we can grow from here. But all my friends were 81, 82. But I just told myself, just keep going. This isn't a sprint, this is a marathon, just keep going. And then the next winter, I topped at 80. It's like, okay, we're getting there. We can do this. We're catching up. And then in the summer, we were in Atlanta in a perfect game event before PBR bought them out down there at Lake Point. I topped at 84. I was showing that gradual progression, and it was showing promise. And then I would say I was sat around there for about a year-ish, topped at 86, 85, 85, my junior winter, and then COVID hit. And I was topping 81, 82 because I have those free weights I was lifting, but there's only so much you can do in the house.
Yeah.
When I found out I was going to World with Bat, I threw a bullpen, granted, not having thrown for a month, the top to 80. So, wow, I plan on playing college baseball, and I can't even throw 81 right now. I got in the gym, and now I'm up to 88. This gradually, I mean, I played in the fall in Kansas City with the Rawlings Tigers, who I played club for forever, top to 86. Then the winter was 87, and then the collegiate league was 88.
So who were some of the guys that were instrumental in that progression, kind of getting the velo up or getting you to the right places? When you look back on it, who were some of those guys that were really important?
Two guys jump at me right away. It's Dave Berkby. He's a big guy. I believe he's the vice president or something. He's very high up in the Rawlings Tigers, and he was my pitching coach for a while. And he was my coach as well. So he was constantly with me, reminding me of stuff to do. He was encouraging above all things. As a player, you don't want to constantly hear what you have to do. Sometimes it's nice to hear what you do well. So it was nice to have that reassurance while it was constructive criticism. It was, hey, you did this well, but next time, do this. So that grew me better. I had confidence in myself while also knowing I can work on things. Then I had my dad. My dad pitched at Truman. So when COVID happened, it was my dad and I versus the world. And we were out there throwing every day. And when we were going down, traveling the country in the fall, because I would say remote learning with COVID actually did me well. I was able to travel with all that. He went to every tournament with me. We drove down to Melissa, which is Dallas, and we lifted every day in the hotel. We lifted every day. I think it was every single day for 2 months leading up to that. He was always there with me, no matter what it was. No matter if he was feeling sick, he sat there and watched. If he wasn't, he did it with me. And he said he hated lifting with me because I lift more than him and I'd make fun of him. But it was like an adventure that I didn't have to do alone, which was really nice. And he's taken the stuff that he did wrong and learned from it and made me do better. Because there's stuff that, I'm 18. I want to be lazy sometimes. It's like, no, that's what I did. And I'm a lawyer now. I'm not a baseball player. You don't want to be a lawyer. So get off your butt, go do it.
So how did you do the throwing over those years? Did you take time off? Like, cause you're also you were a football recruit. Was there certain times of the year where you just put the ball down and didn't throw and then picked it back up for arm care purposes? Or how did your seasonal cycle work with throwing?
So most of the time, my last pitch would be, as a youth player, it would be late September, early October when you play fall ball. But into high school, it was last pitch was in July in the last tournament. All right, I love you, baseball. I'll see you soon. I throw on my shoulder pads, not even think about baseball for about 3-4 months. Then I would start doing, when that season was over, it was start conditioning, start med ball stuff. Because when I went to Adam Jansen with ace pitching, it was don't pick up a ball until you've done your medicine ball. You work your hip shoulder separation, getting yourself back into that baseball shape, baseball physique. Then early December, it was 50% long toss, and you gradually would get higher and higher until it was okay. January 1, hop on a mound. You're throwing a 50% flat ground. And before you know it, it's the 1st of February. We start high school season in 3 weeks, and you're throwing 100% bullpen, and then you're throwing a 60-pitch bullpen right before you go into high school. And it was very, very crucial to put down a ball for a little bit, because I know they always say someone's outworking you, but especially in pitching, there's only so much you can do. You can hit a million balls off the tee, but your arm can only go for so long. So you have to take care of that. You can be the best pitcher. You can be the best pitcher out there. Unless you can't throw, no one knows it. So arm care is huge. So that's why putting down a ball for 3 or 4 months is big.
So when you were having conversations with college coaches, what were their conversations or their thoughts about you being a multiple sport athlete? What did they tell you about that?
They always encouraged it, because it taught you. A lot of times I didn't really realize this until I was told it. It taught you time management, because you were able to weigh that working out for football and baseball. Because I will say working out for football and baseball are really different. Because whenever I put down a ball, late July, it was okay, put on 20 pounds. Get in the weight room, put on 20 pounds. Take out the shoulder pads for the last time, it was, all right, drop it. So it was time management and those learning, the hard work, time off. 2-sport athlete, you never have time off. I can't even imagine those kids are 3-sport athletes. So it was hard work and time management and dedication, which were the really big things that they liked out of the 2-sport athletes.
When you look back at your recruiting process, what were some mistakes you made? Something that you might warn some up and coming middle school or freshmen, hey, make sure you don't do this, because this either didn't work for me or it kind of hurt me.
Sending too long of emails. They don't. When you send coaches a book, it's a waste of their time. Make it short, make it quick. Just get to the point. Because if they see, and when you put in the subject line of your email, put so-and-so dash, for me it was Gavin Oswald dash left-handed pitcher, 2021. Hook them right away, introduce yourself, then very quickly tell who you are. You don't want to write a summary about yourself. I wrote a couple lines and I told them who I was, but you don't want a paragraph or two. You want the importance of the top in case they stop reading. And I make sure you spell the college right. If it's if it's Western Kentucky University, do not put University of Western Kentucky. Make sure you get that right, because it shows you actually did some research. So I've seen kids ask for advice on how to get into the University of Western Kentucky. They don't get a response back. This coach is like, these kids couldn't even put in the time to look up how to name our university correctly. Why do we want to give him any time? So make sure you get the fine details right and make it to the point.
So at what point in your career did you say to yourself, listen, I think I can play at the next level?
It was probably my sophomore year. We were facing some of the best competition, and I was able to hold my own. It was Grand Park, and I don't know the team, but I had a no-hitter through 6 innings. And it just takes that one breakout moment where you're like, okay, you get that confidence. You're like, okay, I can hang with these guys. And not only can I hang with these guys, I am one of these guys. And as a pitcher especially, you could have a 58 ERA, but if you throw a good enough game with the right people there, they won't even know that you blew up in a city 5 hours away the weekend before. So always keep your head up, always be like, okay, good start here can do me wonders, because you never know who's watching.
What about the recruiting process? What was the first thing you did in the recruiting process, and what year did that start for you?
I started really early. So with the Tigers, we had a college night. And I went up, like I said, constantly being on them, being persistent. I went up and introduced myself to every coach there. Even if I wasn't interested in their university or college, I went up there and introduced myself. And the first one I talked to was Tony Vitello at Tennessee. And one piece of advice he gave us was we could all email him a rough draft and he would fix it for us. That's where I get the idea of keep it short. That's what he told me. He rewrote the email for me and gave me that. So I sent it out to everyone and I got some more responses. I kept
And
it short.
what year was this at? What year was this taking place? I mean, how old, what grade were you in?
I was a freshman, the winter of
Freshman.
my
Okay.
and a freshman that threw a 76. I'm sorry, Florida's not interested, but they know that you're just a freshman, and you see those kids signing seventh and eighth grade. Don't listen to it. Don't give in to the social media aspect of it because social media can help you and it can also hurt you. Those kids can't sign for a while, and you see these schools that have kids committed in the seventh grade. They have 35 of them. Just keep going, keep going. Don't get down on yourself. Just keep going. Keep it. It's sending them your number improvements. That's what they want to see. They want to see improvement in the upside to it all. So I would send. I'm 74 now. 3 months later, I'm 78, and eventually got to the point where it was. I look back at some of my emails, and I got them all the way from 73 to 86. I think it was when I stopped sending my emails when I committed.
So you remember who was the first phone call with? Did you reach out to them or did they call you?
It was I posted something on Twitter, and they ended up replying in a direct message. I posted something about how social distancing from 66 was the exact tweet. And it was my friend and I throwing a bullpen at the local ballpark. And they ended up direct messaging me. I believe it was Southern Illinois College, SIC, or Southwest or something. And it was SIC. And I ended up touring them first because they showed the most loyalty. So I ended up going down there first. I remember my legs were literally shaking. I was in the living room getting that phone call because I was over quarantine, so I couldn't go anywhere. So I was in the house. My legs were literally shaking because I was so scared. It ended up being fun.
Yeah, those first phone calls are pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. So what talk to me a little bit about the campus visit. With COVID, I've heard some interesting stories about virtual tours, guys riding around on carts, shooting phone video for guys. Well, how did campus visits play a role, like unofficial and official visits in your recruiting?
So I never went on an actual official visit, but for all my visits that were technically unofficial, there was only one that was really changed. I toured or visited Paris, Texas, Paris Community College down in Texas. And that was the only one that was a little different because we sat in a locker room and talked to the two coaches. They were extremely nice, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to show you around the campus." So, okay, where are we walking to? Well, we actually hopped in the car of one of the coaches, and it was maybe 10 minutes. We just drove around the campus, and it was like you were on a safari. You were at Animal Kingdom and Disney World, and it was like, okay, over there you'll see the science program, and over there you'll see the weight room. But they couldn't do anything about it. We weren't able to get out. Other than that, it was just throw your mask on. There was a couple times it was like, okay, we're going to do this, but shh, keep on the down low. This isn't supposed to happen. That happened a couple times, but mostly there was only a couple that were affected.
Okay, good. So how did that impact as you were looking at final offers, making a decision without being on campus at different places? Did you feel like you were at a little disadvantage?
I so I made a list of all the colleges that either talked to me, offered me, showed any interest, and I went through and I looked up campuses. They offer virtual tours if you just go on their website. So I did a virtual tour, and if they showed an extreme amount of interest, I put more thought into them, and I picked out, okay, I don't think I would do well in this town, this campus, so and so. Took a bunch of, there's a lot of criteria to it, And I narrowed down 5 or 10. And I made sure I got on every campus, whether it was take myself there with my parents, myself, drive around, or contact the coach. And I did not want to be at that disadvantage of showing up the first day of school or in the summer, like I've committed here and I hadn't been on campus yet. So I made sure that I didn't put myself in that situation.
So it's interesting when I hear you talk, you're very methodical about your process. Did you use any like recruiting services, or were there some folks that really helped you kind of map this out? Sound like you had a really good process.
I've heard for a very long time that you have to be careful with those recruiting services because some of them can be money grabs. So actually, the person that we kind of co-run my Twitter together is my mom, Wendy, and it's always okay, Gavin. And it's after I start, it's funny every time. We won't even be on the way home. It's the sixth inning. After I throw 6 innings, bottom of the sixth, they tell me I'm out. She has a post ready. She's like, "What do you think about this?" Okay, slow down. We'll talk about it. And I'm always the one that makes the final edits. It's all the posting, the tagging, hashtags, all that. But she's very supportive. Helps me out a
Hey,
lot. So
a little tip of the cap to mom. Well done. Yeah.
So it's weird because nobody within the baseball world was the biggest help with that, but actually my mom was awful with technology. What we call her the Twizzard, because she always has something she wants to post on there. I have to tell her, okay, slow your roll, mom. Think about this, and I'll post it later if I feel it's comfortable. Sometimes she'll get an alert on her phone. It's like Gavin Oswald has tagged you in a tweet, and I'll get a text in all caps. You posted without me? Sorry, mom. I don't need your approval for it.
So a lot of guys reference their travel experiences as paramount in their recruiting process. And one of the questions I get all the time is, hey, what travel team should I play for? How should I pick my travel team? Can you kind of walk me back, maybe like 12, 13 years old? Where did you play? Who did you play for? How did you decide that?
So I've always played for the Rawlings Tigers. We started as the Redbirds, who that club was kind of diminished a little bit around the St. Louis area, but they were pretty known. And when the Tigers started to come up, people knew who they were, but they were new. They were really new. The biggest thing to look for, which I look for, was not how good the team is, because it's fun. Winning is fun. I hate losing more than I like winning. But you have to put yourself sometimes in an awkward situation of I have to be selfish. It's not about the strength of the team, but the strength of the tournaments and competition they play at. Because when you play teams like the Canes or Team Elite, I don't care if you're from the local ballpark. There's going to be scouts there to watch that team. So put yourself in a situation where you're going to play teams like that, play the competition that draw scouts and draw recruiters, and maybe you'll succeed and thrive against teams like that. That's how I picked my team as to who would put me in the best position to play in a situation.
So if I'm a parent, how did you find out about the Rawlings Tigers? Did someone reach out to you? Did you have someone say, "Hey, you might want to think about this team"? Did you do some research? How did you initially, connect with them?
So I did some research, and I also went around to different ballparks. And I've always been, for some reason, I've always had friends older than I am, so I can talk to them. Not a couple years older than me, but I'm friends with kids that are 6, 7 years older than me. To this day, I don't know why, but I am. And I asked them that are in the baseball world, hey, who are the good programs? What do they do? And once I didn't trust them completely because, again, they're high school students. They're older in middle school. So I did, because I joined the Tigers when I was in 4th grade. So I wasn't really thinking about the recruiting process at that point, but I was thinking about who put me in the best position to play competition. Because you always want to talk about playing college baseball when you're a little kid and playing professional baseball. You never really know the recruiting process side of it until you get older. But I always had my mindset of playing the best competition because that makes you better. And then in the long run, draw scouts.
So tell me about the role of your high school coach in the recruiting process. Some guys are really connected and they know a lot of guys, can pull a lot of strings. Other guys they're local high school coaches, have limited time. Some of them even have other jobs and stuff. What was your situation like?
So my high school baseball coach was also the football coach and a PE teacher, so he had his plate full. I took the awards that he nominated me for, and he wrote me. I asked him to write some of my teachers. It just happened to be that he was also my baseball coach. Some of the teachers that had seen me grow and I've had pretty often in high school, I had them write me rec letters just to show the coach that I'm hardworking inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom. So I used the material that he gave me, baseball and academic related, and combined it with the athletic side that my club coach gave me, because your club coach doesn't see the academic part of it. So I honestly used my high school coach to give me a lot of academic awards and honors, and use that to build my resume on top of the athletic that my club gave me.
So are those things you would just mention in an email, or would you like attach some recommendation letters, to the emails?
So I would download the letters. I would have them write it on a Google document or something like that, and I would download it, and I would attach them all at the bottom. I would attach a rec letter, a video, and then miscellaneous whatever at the end if I felt like it. If that was necessary, if that coach really wanted something out of me, I would add something else. And I would list those awards that the high school gave me and the club gave me, and right below it I would put the rec letter saying I'm not making it up. I'm not fibbing, but this is the truth. This is from the real teacher. Here you go.
Okay, good. So now walk me through your Rawlings Tigers coaches along the way. When did they start getting, and what age were you when they started getting involved, and what role did they actually play?
So 15U, right when we got into the paid coaches high school program type of atmosphere, I'll never forget. You always talk about, oh my God, what happens if the scouts here? Am I going to play bad? Am I going to do this, that, and the other? Well, 15U, my coach was Chris Nash. And we were playing at SLU U, and the SLU coach just walked in our dugout. And 15-year-olds are all like, oh my God, it's happening. And he hands them a roster. And the biggest part that my three high school coaches were Chris Nash, Trent Limekeeler, and Dave Burkby. And the biggest thing they did for me was they pulled strings, they got guys there, and they talked to them after. They got him there, gave him the roster, and was like, this is who's throwing. If you want to see him, he's throwing this day. And I was able to send the coach, my coach's information. So you want to talk to him, you want to get his advice, here you go. And they would help me out. They would reach out to guys for me that I didn't even think about. And then after the fact, they would talk to them about how they felt about me, see if they wanted to meet me one-on-one, meet me for a visit, a workout, anything of those sorts. So those guys were all able to promote me before and after, which is really nice, and draw all that attention to me.
So tell me a little bit about the football career. What position did you play? How good were you there? Did you get some offers there? What was on the football side?
So the football side was weird. It was for fun. Baseball was forever what I knew I wanted to do, but it was weird because a lot of people are like, Gavin, I'm telling you, play football, because it made my decision a lot harder when Rams Hall of Famer left tackle Orlando Pace came over to my house. He's like, Gavin, you need to play football. And I was like, wow.
Wow.
You made it a little hard there, Mr. Pace. And we were family friends with them, and he's like, I know, practices suck, but you were made to play football. And he told me that too late, because you always got to start training at a young age. He told me that 8th grade or freshman year, and it was kind of a sport where I showed up the first practice, like, all right, I forgot the snap count, forgot everything. Let's rerun it, run it back. We'll do it again. Let's start the season. I've never trained to play football outside the football season. And I would drop my pads on the last day of the season. Like, all right, see you boys in August. But being big, I was a left tackle for forever, and I was quick, which drew people. My feet were semi-quick. I have a horrible drop step. My friends still make fun of me for it to this day, but I can shove some big people around. Then they moved me to center, which I know I'm 6'6". My quarterback couldn't see over me, but I was the only one smart enough because we had 5 meatheads on our offensive line. So I was the only one smart enough. And every play, the funniest story ever is we get in the huddle and our quarterback, all right, red Pittsburgh, X motion on 2. Say, go. And I knew every position and what they were supposed to do because all 4 of them would snap over me really quickly. What do I do? What do I do in this play? And we still give each other crap about that because it was just I carried the brains and they did the bronze for me. So
Awesome.
I got an
Awesome.
offer from it wasn't an official offer, but I got offered to come down and visit and work out with Missouri S&T to be actually on their defensive line, even though I'm horrendous at defense. So I had to make a big decision there. It was, okay, do I want to play college football or college baseball? And that was before I showed any interest from schools in college baseball. That was a big step for me to say, hey, I'm going to pursue baseball. I gambled a lot there. It's like, what if this doesn't work out? And I look back, I'm like, well, I could have played football. But I ended up going on a limb, doing something bold, and ended up paying off.
Excellent. So talk to me a little bit about video in your process. You mentioned, doing some Twitter posts. Did you have like a highlight video? Did you do like a skills video that you sent to guys? The standard, 2 or 3 pitches from the side, from behind. How did video play a role in your recruiting?
So I did a mixture of video in bullpen and video in game, because a lot of videos in game, you're sitting in a stadium and you can't necessarily see. You can get right behind the catcher, but you're not always close enough to really see. You can see some of the break on the pitches. You can see what you do to batters, but you can't see a lot of fundamentals and stuff like that. So I would include gameplay and game film to show what I can actually do to batters mentally, physically, overpower, stuff like that. But then along with that post of that video in games, I would come home a week later, not the day after or the day of course, throwing, and I would throw a bullpen in my yard. I have a baseball field in my yard. I have a little infield in my yard. So I get on the mound and I just throw a little flat ground. Like, okay, and I will say Mustard does well with that. They give me my numbers of, okay, this is the degrees of my, I don't even know the technical term for it, but how angled my hips are when I lift, or this is my time to the plate. This is how long my stride is. So they're able to take those numbers where they can actually see it in a bullpen and add that along with actual gameplay so they can see both aspects of that.
So did you have a YouTube channel where you housed all these videos? Was it just Twitter? Did you attach them to emails? What was the distribution of your video like?
It was Twitter posts, so for everyone to see, and then for schools in particular that I wanted to show, I would send it to them individually so they can analyze it and don't have to use the little scroll button and get really close to the phone and scroll back 2 seconds and slow it down with their fingers so they can watch my motion. But I would attach it to a video so they could play it in slow motion and so they could see I was actually showing them interest, because you want to form that, like I said, you want to form that bond, you want to show that you're interested in dedicating that school. So I sent it to them as well.
So you mentioned the Mustard app. How has that helped kind of the pitching? Did you actually send some of that data to colleges? Did that come into play after your recruiting? How's Mustard help?
It's helped exponentially. It didn't help with my actual recruiting, but it's helped me become a better pitcher after the fact. When I committed, those numbers weren't exactly there, but Mustard came along, I would say in February, March-ish of this year. And when colleges look to see who you work with, they want to see big names. They want to see you're working hard and you're putting effort into it. And Tom House, everyone and their brother knows who Tom House is. Worked with Tom Brady on the football side. The baseball side has worked with some of the greatest pitchers that have pitched when I was alive. I know there's better back in the day, but from when I was alive, he was some of the best. So they want to see you working with that. And then the actual point of mustard is you take 2 videos from behind and 2 videos from the side, and you submit it to the app and it analyzes it. Takes maybe 5 minutes. You can do it with a pitch, you can do it while doing the towel drill, you can do it any way you want. Just do a dry throw, anything you like. And it shows you how long your stride is supposed to be, your torque, your hip shoulder separation, timing, everything you can ever think of. And that shows you what you've passed and what you haven't passed. You have to enter your metrics into there, your height, weight, all that. So it knows how far things are supposed to be, how quick things are supposed to be, all those different types of variations. But once you've passed something, you're good to go. You just got to make sure you keep passing that. The things you haven't passed, you click on the little segment, the drop-down bar of what you haven't passed. And from there, you can click on the video that either Mustard themselves have created or they've attached from YouTube. And it shows you drills you can do to work on that. And it's not always one. If you're not comfortable with doing one drill, there's 2 or 3 options for what drill you can do for what you think will better yourself. Because they're not going to force you to do anything. They're going to give you suggestions. And then every Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day you're signed up for, you have a meeting with Tom House himself. I know that's really cool. And he picks out 5 or 6 videos in an hour, and he analyzes them with him and his other teammates. The crew over there at Mustard, they all get together on the Zoom, and they analyze guys. I mean, we had a pro guy in there, and then we had 8-year-olds in there. It's all the age ranges, and he slows it down, and he uses a little pen and writes where things are supposed to be versus where they're at. And he picks you apart in case that app is sometimes wrong, and he gives you more of a one-on-one time instead of a computer-generated robotic response.
Yeah, like I mentioned to you on the phone, Tom House was we were throwing footballs with the Texas Rangers back in the Nolan Ryan days, back when I pitched in the minor leagues, and Tom House was like the pitching instructor there. So yeah, he's worked with some great pitchers. So that's awesome. So what other you mentioned some video, you mentioned some letters of recommendation, any other documentation you would send to coaches? Do you have profiles anywhere, like a hard copy or an online profile?
The only profiles I have are pretty much just Twitter. I have a profile with the Tigers. It's a little outdated, so I would send that when I was younger, but as I continued to grow, sometimes I would just use Twitter. And it was kind of hard to get those profiles because when the real recruiting was happening for me, I couldn't get those profiles because of COVID. So I have that perfect game profile that they create for you and the PBR stuff. It was a little outdated, so I kind of had to go think outside the box and go on my own and create my own profiles with things. So that's where, if you look at my Twitter, it has all the my height, weight, again, shoe size, has all that stuff in there, just in case you want to look at that and don't have to go back and dig through perfect game and stuff.
So walk me through the communication process. How did it work from, hey, you're sending an email and then, at the end of the road, you're talking to coaches on the phone. What happened in between there?
So 2 or 3 times I would send emails, and I will say not very often they respond on the first one, and not very often do they respond quickly. You have to give it time. You have to just keep going. Put your head down and keep going. I would wait 2 days. If they didn't respond, I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to be that dude that emails them every day. But I had my next one written. I had a time I was going to send it. Like if I sent one in November, it's like, okay, next one's Thanksgiving. Wish them a happy Thanksgiving. Just to keep seeing my name pop up. And I'm like, this Gavin Oswald won't leave me alone. And then they go to Atlanta, at Lake Point, and they're like, oh, Gavin Oswald. Okay, let's go see if this kid's really telling me the truth. And all of a sudden, I annoyed the bejesus out of them. All of a sudden, they're watching me play. And some schools, it sucks, but they're like, it's not going to be for me. I'm sorry. I wish you the best, but try again. Try somebody else. You have to just live with that because you're not going to succeed in everything you do. Hundreds of programs out there. You just have to be okay with that. Okay. Moving on to the next one. And then from then, when they would respond, I would slowly attach my phone number at the bottom of it. Then when I really got into Twitter, I would DM them sometimes, or I would ask them for their phone number. Just jump straight to the point. Hey, what's your phone number? I'd like to give you a call. I'd like to shoot you a text. And honestly, most of the time they'd give it to me. And then I would shoot them a text, go back and forth for a couple weeks. Hey, are you okay? Are you free for a phone call? And then you form that connection on different platforms. And now if you need to reach them, you don't have to wait for a couple days for them to respond to your email. You can just shoot them a text or a phone call right then and there.
So what's that phone call like when you talk to a coach? There's a lot of kids that'll watch this video that have not had a phone call with a coach. How long is it? You know, what do you guys talk about?
It all depends. It's very per coach on how long we talk about. And I'll be honest, it starts off a little choppy. It's like, hey, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? It starts off like that for about 2 or 3 minutes. If you're like, okay, what are we going to talk about here? And then somebody breaks the ice. You talk about baseball. A lot of times I keep reiterating this, but form that connection. How's your family doing? What are you doing this weekend? Like you're talking to a friend. It's a lot easier to talk to a friend than it is to talk to a teacher or an adult. It's like, hey man, what are you doing this weekend? And so you have to learn. Some of those coaches are older. They're not old men, but they're a little older. So sometimes that strategy doesn't work. But I've seen some younger coaches where that strategy works. And I've talked to a coach for an hour and a half. I talked to Wisconsin Eau Claire for an hour and a half. Some of them are 5 minutes. Hey, I'd really like to get you on campus, but I have to run. I just wanted to meet you, be able to actually talk to you and not talk over text. It take days to talk about something that could take 2 minutes over a text or a phone call. So I just wanted to talk to you, see how you're doing, tell you that we're interested, and maybe we can set up a time for a real phone call. Some of those things happen. It is on either end of the spectrum, but a lot of times it's talking about the campus. It's their baseball program, the history of their baseball program, and their campus. Of course, we talk about what they do. And my 3 questions were, what are your pitching programs like? What is your education like? And what have you guys done in the past? If they can answer those 3 and pass my personal criteria, they're on the list. They're high up on the list. And you have to make it conversational. It's not, this is fun because it's an actual interview, but the phone call shouldn't be an interview. It should, and if it is an interview, it's both of you interviewing the other one. It's not you give one-word answers and he responds, or he gives one-word answers and you keep asking questions. You have to keep that going, and sometimes he asks you a question and you answer, and then follow up with a question for him. Just keep that going, that back and forth going.
So when you got down towards the end, when did you pull the trigger and commit, and how did you make that decision?
So I was down to 2 schools when I made my decision. I started off with, do they want me? If they want me, put them on the list. Put them on the list, baby. They're there. And then after my phone calls slowed down, the offers slowed down, I started getting harsher and harsher with how I cut people off. It was, okay, how close were they to home? Will my family like the campus? How close will I be to this, that, and the other? And a big thing for me is I don't like big cities per se. So Xavier's in Cincinnati. I would rather go to a college town than go to a big city where the college is just there with the city. So I did some of that personal stuff as well as how's the education? Am I going to be able to get a job if baseball doesn't work out? So I slowly started narrowing it down. And then when the money with universities was slim, I ended up kind of crossing off a lot of them and direct messaging them, emailing them, texting them. Hey, I think I'm going to go to the JUCO route. Hopefully we can stay in touch over the next 2 years. And the cool thing about JUCO is I can step on the campus in August for 3 hours and they're like, all right, I'm transferring. So I was like, okay, we can keep that relationship going. At any point, I'd love to get on campus, stuff like that. And then eventually I was down to Paris, Texas, and Mineral area. I decided I prefer to be an hour and a half away from home instead of 8 to 10 hours. So that's how I made my decision. Whether it was all baseball related, until I narrowed it down, and I made it personal of what I would prefer.
So obviously, if a if a JUCO college is in the works for somebody trying to make this decision, you're also thinking about, okay, it's part of that questioning or understanding what that college does is how are they going to get me out of there? Or how are they going to show me to other schools? What kind of questions or how were those conversations with the JUCOs you looked at the end?
When recruiting out of a JUCO to a university, before I asked the coach, I did my own personal research. On most junior colleges, you can look at alumni that play baseball. You can click on a link and it narrows it down to, okay, these are guys that are playing pro, Division One, Division Two, Division Three, and AIA. And I looked at where they send guys because some of the coaches are new and it's hard because you're like, I don't know the history to this guy. I don't know his background.
They don't kind of have those pipelines already
Yeah,
identified. Yeah.
yeah. But the schools I narrowed it down to, I was lucky I didn't have to do more digging with the new coaches. It was a lot of look up who's gone where while they've been there, and then talk to the coach and ask them what they do, whether they promote you. And I had one school, I'm not going to name names, but I had one school say, you're here to play baseball. You're going to do most of your recruiting on your own. It's like, okay, we can do this together. This isn't a one person thing. So that was it's kind of comments like that has also helped narrow it down. And I figured out the difference between club and college and what extra they were going to do for me. And I'm not needy. I don't need them to do a bunch of stuff. I just need them to be there for me and assist me in getting that recognition.
Yeah, that's the big thing because that's the phone call that's going to count. You know, when you're reaching out and hey, I've got these 5 schools I'd like to go to, it's that phone call that's going to be ultra important. So if you've got a bunch of maybe eighth graders or freshmen in high school that are sitting in an audience and they're asking you, hey, what advice do you have us in the baseball recruiting world? What would you roll out for them?
All right. I got a list of a couple here. Confidence is key. Baseball is more mental than it is physical. Just keep going. There are things that are going to happen. Major League Baseball players that fail 7 out of 10 times at the plate can be Hall of Famers. That's 300 average. That is incredible. Keep going. Things are going to happen, but just keep on going. Number two is be persistent. I've said it so many times throughout us talking here, but stay on them. Remember your name. Because all of a sudden they're going to be like, the Wrongs Tigers. There's that one kid that wouldn't leave. He sent me a message at 7 in the morning on Christmas Day. I'm going to check this kid out. Let me see what he's like. Just keep on them because eventually they're going to, if you form that connection, keep texting them, keep emailing them, they're going to feel bad a little bit turning you away. They're going to want to give you a bigger chance than the kid that's emailed them once and not shown much interest. And if you also include a background, be like, hey, saw you did well in the NCAA tournament this year. They're like, okay, this kid really cares. He did his research. He knows about our program. That's big for them as well. Number three is I know your parents, your coaches, your teachers, family tells you this, just work hard. That's the easiest part of the process, but it's also the hardest. The easiest part is when you're actually there, lifting, hitting, pitching. That's the fun part. That's okay. I'm laying on the bench. I got to rep this out real quick. Or I'm getting front toss. I'm going to hit some bombs real quick. It's getting up out of bed at 7 in the morning before you head to work, before you head to a friend's house. So there's 24 hours in a day. You need sleep. That's a huge, huge, huge thing. And that if you sleep enough, that leaves you 14 to 16 hours in a day. You take 2 hours to lift, boom, over the summer, you got 12 to 14 hours with your friends. That's plenty. You guys can mess around for 12 to 14 hours and you still got a good workout in. You still kept your body well. Just make sure you go. Just do the hard part because then it becomes easy once you've done enough.
So as you look back, any interesting or funny recruiting stories along the journey?
I got a lot, but I'll just list two or three. So Grand Park 2020, so last year, Wisconsin Eau Claire called me, and this coach was very young. I told him he was one of my favorite coaches I talked to. And he called me. He's like, hey, what are you doing, man? I know you're starting later. And I was like, oh, well, I'm using the restroom right now. He laughed. He goes, I love it. And I thought to myself, why does this guy like it? And he went on to tell me, he's like, I love that you're honest, and I love that we can joke around, because you don't want to be a robot to them and just a tool to them. You want to be a friend. So I thought that was funny. We talked about that for multiple days after that. When I saw him later at the park, it was like, how'd it go? We laughed a little bit. And I still tell that story to my friends about how I think that's funny. And that, on my part, formed a bond of that was harder to turn them away. And then
That's a good one, man. That's a good one.
That's funny. And then another story is my dad and I, when we were in Texas, it was just constantly go, go, go. But we had to leave the hotel in the morning to make it to Paris on time. And when I didn't even know it, but I fell asleep in the car. And so I woke up and I had a little crusty right here because I was drooling on his seat. And it looked like I was on, like my eyes looked like I was on drugs. So we took 5 minutes, we pulled over. He was like, look, man, you got to fix yourself up here. And I'm not kidding. When we were talking, I was so tired. We talked for the first 2 minutes. I just had this initial reaction of, wow, these guys are being really loud. And this is the world is moving faster than I am right now. So after the fact, my dad asked me, did you fall asleep in the middle of that? I was like, no, I was really into it. He goes, man, you looked a little funny. So I think that's funny. And it was funny. The coach after, he was like, yeah, it was early because I had to be there at 8 a.m. So I think I was up at like 5.
Yeah.
And then
That's good. That's good
this
stuff, man.
I'll be doing something stupid in a ballpark, just messing around with my friends. And then I'll turn around and I'll get all wide-eyed when I see the coach that's there talking to me. That's coming to talk to me, and he sees me do a cartwheel in the middle of the park. He's like, man, what are you doing? Why are you being an idiot? It's just funny stuff like that. That just those memories are those you'll never forget. I mean, never forget when a coach sees you walk around without a shirt on because you think you're being funny in a park rather than a conversation you have trying to be professional.
The 6'8" cartwheel, man. That or the 6'6" cartwheel. That's what I want to see.
The football team made us do cartwheels, and they tried to make us do back handsprings. It didn't end so well, but they wanted us to be athletes. So I can do a decent cartwheel if I could say so myself.
I got to see some Twitter proof. When we're done here, you're gonna have to shoot me like a Twitter video or something. That's I need some verifiable information.
Tomorrow I'll do one. I'll post it on Twitter and I'll tag you in it.
All right, I'm in. All right, tonight we had Gavin Oswald, the big lefty, 2021 left-hand pitcher, heading off to Mineral Area Junior College. Dude, I appreciate you spending time with that. I really enjoyed the time we spent. Man, you seem so thoughtful in your process, and buddy, we just wish you all the luck this fall as you head out.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's cool to pass on my advice to the younger kids because I lived it, and I know some of it sucks, but you just got to do it. So I appreciate you guys having me on here. I appreciate your time. It's a road that's nice to kind of be nostalgic and think about. And so you drew out some memories that were really fun for me and gave me some jitters.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.